Once again, welcome to Spoiled Vision Movie Recaps. I'm going to show you a drama movie from 2019 called Dark Waters that is based on actual occurrences. Beware of spoilers. In the dead of night, an automobile may be seen driving. A couple adolescents get out as the vehicle comes to a stop near to a big fence and leap over the barrier. Two of them skinny dip when they find a lake. They are abruptly instructed to leave the sea by two men in a boat who are dousing the water with something. A group of law firm partners assemble in a conference room more than 20 years later and in a different state to welcome Rob Billitt as a new partner. Two farmers enter the company's offices in the meantime and want to speak with him. His secretary escorts him to where the men are waiting after escorting him from the conference. They go on to say that they are friends with his grandmother, who informed them that Rob is an environmental lawyer and that they urgently require his assistance. He is instructed to watch the videos they have brought by one of the men. Rob, however, declines them and explains that he supports large corporations. He enters the gathering after the men have left. Tom Terp, his supervisor, inquires about the issue, but Rob dismisses it. Rob is enjoying dinner at home that evening with his wife and child. He exudes an unease. The following day, he makes the trip to West Virginia to visit his grandma and look into the matter. She reveals to him that she used to take him and his sister to their farm when they were young as they spoke about the farmers that visited him in his office. As he heads over to the property, Dr. Run Landfill comes into view. The man leads him inside his home and starts exhibiting odd organs from his cattle that exhibit illness and malformations. Then, after showing him some unusual white rocks inside the creek where his animals drink, he claims that they are some sort of poisons that are harming his cattle. When Rob turns around, he only sees two cows. The man leads him to the remaining livestock that are interred in a nearby field. He has lost countless cows. Rob is alarmed to find that DuPont, the chemical corporation that owns the dump, has not responded to the man's inquiries concerning the chemicals in the creek or provided any explanations. Rob goes to a business dinner with the head of the DuPont Corporation, whom his company has long been a friend of. He approaches the president after dinner and inquires about the landfill. The president politely closes the discussion by promising to look into the situation. Rob returns to the man's land later and brings him an assessment. The farmer is incensed by the report on the property and the cattle, which claims that the animals perish from poor care. The farmer is confident that this is untrue. One of the cows begins acting abnormally as they dispute and is poised to charge at them. The man waits in the back while Rob boards the truck. He shoots the cow when she charges. Rob returns to the village later and sees that the chemical corporation owns the entire area. Back at the office, he describes the scenario to his boss and hands him the camera recordings the farmer placed there. He then asks his boss to take the case pro bono because the neighborhood attorneys are wary of the corporation. Although he reluctantly accepts, his employer cautions him to stay on point with the case. Rob calls the company's president that day to inform him that he is suing them and to request more landfill-related information. He will receive the reports, it is said. The president tells Rob he forgives him for suing and doesn't seem overly bothered about the situation. 1 year later, the report is delivered. Rob is looking over the paperwork while missing a party at his home. He discovers other objects within that appear strange, with the letters PFOA appearing numerous times. At the office, he makes an unsuccessful attempt to decipher its significance. When one of his coworkers enters, they discuss the situation. Rob is concerned that the business is dumping chemicals without telling the Environmental Protection Agency, which is unlawful, and hiding it. His coworker is unaware of PFOA. Signifies either. The president begins avoiding his calls in the meantime. Rob and his wife go to the Ohio Chemical Alliance Awards banquet later that evening. Throughout the gathering, he searches for the DuPont president and approaches him when he eventually spots him. The man causes a scene out of anger and worries Rob's wife, who wonders if Rob is aware of his opponent. Rob's supervisor is upset with him the following day for making the case at such a huge deal. The office receives court-ordered papers related to the case. Rob begins poring over the documents and reports DuPont is trying to bury him under because he is determined to figure out what is going on. He discovers the abbreviation PFOA once more, this time with C8. Because the chemical firm is the area's largest employer, the farmers are receiving sympathy from their town as a result of their lawsuit. A chemist and Rob meet to discuss what Rob has discovered. The chemist replies that he has heard of something similar but not PFOA. It refers to a synthetic substance created in a lab. The chemist is shocked when Rob asks him what would happen if the compound were to be consumed, stating that it is equivalent to asking what would occur if you ingested a tire. After another year, Rob is moving farther along in the investigation as he learns that DuPont is also poisoning people in addition to livestock. The town's water contains the chemical he discovered on the document. He comes upon records that support the suspicion. The farmer who called Rob is currently seeing a doctor in West Virginia because he has been ill for a very long period. When he returns home with his wife, they discover that their records have been pillaged and the livestock samples have been taken. The farmer fears for his family's safety as DuPont threatens them. Rob finds something even more scary not long after. When Rob returns home, he informs his wife that DuPont is poisoning everyone, even their infant. He explains it to his wife, who is reluctant to accept it. The substance he has been looking into was developed as part of the World War II Manhattan Project. Some businesses discovered that they could utilize the same chemical in other products after the war. Among them was DuPont. They used the substance, changed its name to C8, and created Teflon, a coating for pans. The coating is produced in a West Virginian plant, and the business has known it is toxic since the 1960s. The same information concerning DuPont's efforts over the years to hide the dangerous C8 sludge is conveyed to Rob's employer. He learned that the corporation knew about the deformations in monkeys and rats, as well as in their offspring, and had conducted trials showing these deformations. DuPont concealed the fact that the same thing was occurring with its employees' unborn children. The business was aware of the effects its products and byproducts were having on both its customers and its employees. The item was also present in everything, including cookware, paints, and fabrics. When Rob's wife gives birth, he asks the nurses if the child exhibits any outward signs of the deformities he has read about in the files. They assure him that the child is perfect. After considerable time has passed, Rob and his superior confront the DuPont president. He claims to be an expert on C8 and how widespread the contamination is. Later, he also lets the farmer know about it. The farmer believes that the world needs to know what the firm has done and does not want to settle in a court dispute. Rob informs him that the firm is simply too strong to challenge in court. The farmer tells him that both he and his wife have cancer while they dispute. Rob persuades him to accept the settlement nonetheless, and together they sign the paperwork in front of the business president. But in the interim, Rob has given all the pertinent organizations information regarding DuPont and has agreed to testify in the lawsuit those governmental agencies have brought against the firm. However, despite being unhappy with him, his boss wishes him luck in Washington. Later, Rob is seen giving a testimony there and pleading with the authorities to address the contamination. Rob, his wife, and one of his coworkers are called to the Kiger's residence in 2001 after they receive a letter from DuPont. The pair discusses not only other persons they have known who have had the same fate, but also about members of their family who worked for the corporation and died of cancer. The most recent facts causes Rob to propose a prospective class action lawsuit to his law firm, in which they would represent anyone who were directly harmed by the company. He rests his argument on a legal exception DuPont created for themselves based on self-regulation and medical surveillance. The firm's partners are split, with some supporting the company's position and others sticking behind Rob. Rob and the lawsuit are defended by the firm's owner, who claims they should do the right thing and hold DuPont accountable for their wrongdoing. The case is finally heard in court the following year, with Harry Deitzler supporting Rob. Due to the sudden implementation of new pollution standards, DuPont files a move to dismiss the case, which alters the direction of Deitzler and Rob's legal proceeding. The official who is scheduled to testify is seen seated next to the business president, and Deitzler subsequently claims that she might as well be an employee of the company. After another year, Teflon becomes a hot topic in American and international headlines, as scary new information about the chemical becomes available. When one of the Kiger's homes is burned down, the Kigers are also put in danger. They were fortunate that it was the vacant one. The conflict is still going on a year later. Rob is taking a deposition from the chairman of the DuPont Corporation in this dispute. Rob challenges him with the C8 evidence from the 1970s, citing numerous conditions that have been linked to the chemical, including cancer and infertility. He keeps presenting him with records pertaining to their own research, which they have been attempting to conceal and initially deny conducting. When Rob shows the chairman a picture of a youngster with physical abnormalities, the defendant's attorneys are about to leave the deposition. In a panic, Rob exits the office and begins to walk toward his car. Fearing that it might be equipped with a bomb, he carefully starts the car. Later, the EPA ordered DuPont to pay $16 million in penalties and fines. However, a third party is mediating the damages the business must pay to the class suit participants and using an impartial science panel to decide on the medical monitoring portion of the claim. Rob is having a party with his two coworkers on that day. One of them has serious doubts about the science panel's decision, believing that the participants in the case will skip their interviews and steal money from a DuPont settlement. Rob has the brilliant idea to check their blood first and then give them their money so they can expose the company's wrongdoing and put a stop to it in the future. A few years later, as Rob enters the West Virginian town, the blood tests are still being conducted. A large crowd has assembled to undergo testing at a mobile lab. The doctor welcomes Rob when he enters and informs him that his strategy was successful. It's interesting that a woman undergoing testing still thinks DuPont hasn't taken any action. Rob is observing Christmas with his friends and family. He receives a call from a coworker telling him that 69,000 people had been tested, accumulating the enormous amount of data that was required. The farmer passed away 11 years after the case's inception, and Rob and his family go to his funeral. They enter a nearby cafe after the funeral, where a man approaches them and informs Rob that his brother has also passed away from cancer. Following their departure, they pass the unemployment office, where numerous people can be seen, some of whom are enraged at Rob. Later, the Krigers call him to complain that the locals are accusing them of being involved with the case and are upset that it seems to have no end. It takes an eternity to get the findings of the data analysis. Rob is pictured having breakfast with his wife, 3 sons, and another year later. He worries about the kids' ability to continue paying for their Catholic school as they head off to school. Because he has been preoccupied with the case for such a long time and is unaware of what has been happening in his family, his wife becomes irate with him. She bolts outside. Rob debates the case with his supervisor later that day. He explains that this case is the only one remaining that can take on DuPont now that all other federal instances have given up on the issue. Rob begins to shake uncontrollably as they dispute, and his employer tells him that he will get another pay cut. Rob experiences a seizure and collapses on the floor. He is taken to a hospital where tests are being run. Later, his employer and wife are there anticipating the outcomes. When a doctor enters, he explains that the patient had some sort of neurological issue. Rob's wife informs his boss that he needs to start treating him well because he has been battling in a way that neither of them can understand before she departs. A church is where the family is spotted one more year later. Rob finally meets Bucky, the malformed youngster he's been seeing in images for all these years, at a petrol station after that. He reports to work the following morning. He exudes devastation. Even defeated, he is shown seated at his desk when his phone rings and he picks it up. The doctor from the science panel, which was established 7 years ago, calls. She tells him that the data has finally undergone analysis and that it clearly establishes a connection between the DuPont contamination and 6 different types of major illnesses. People who might become ill can now demand reimbursement from the corporation as a result of his activities. Rob seems to have prevailed. Driving home, he informs his family of the development. When Rob receives a new call, they are seen in a restaurant having fun. He receives awful news. DuPont is contesting the panel's scientific conclusions. He believes he has lost and that it is over. The little people always lose, and businesses like DuPont always triumph. He must therefore defend those individuals. It's 2015. A judge assumes his position as the court adjourns. Rob gets to his feet to argue for his customers. Rob Billet is still battling after 3 victories and 3,535 cases being settled. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notification for more movie recaps.